Good evening and welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment Webinar presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement. I am April Darnell, one of the FACE specialists. Our office, which is under the Department of Engagement, seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. We are typically available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and can be reached by our main phone line at 757-482-5923 or at face@cpschools.com. We are excited to offer our families a course catalog entitled Peak Parent University that outlines all of our events for the school year. You can also catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. Please visit www.cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We thank you for joining us tonight for our Supporting Literacy at Home webinar. We are happy to have panelists from English Language Arts and the Department of Curriculum and Instruction. Before we begin, I want to let you know this webinar is being recorded to share on our Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel. Participants' cameras and the chat feature are disabled. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the screen. We will answer all questions by the conclusion of tonight's presentation. And now we would like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Melissa Goodwin, Supervisor of English. Next, we have Elena Baker, Coordinator of English and Language Arts. And finally, Tracy Brandana, Coordinator of Curriculum and Intervention. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. At this time, I would like to turn the program over to Melissa Goodwin.
Thank you so much, April. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session on supporting literacy at home. I'm Dr. Melissa Goodwin, and I'm the Supervisor of English Language Arts here in Chesapeake Public Schools. Joining me tonight, as April indicated, are Tracy Brandana and Elena Baker, who are English Language Arts Coordinator within our division. We're excited to share with you some ideas and information on how you can help support your student at home in literacy. We like to begin each of our discussions with setting an intention. Our intended learning outcomes for today's sessions are: we want to provide you with information to deepen your understanding about the components of literacy. We will discover ways in which you can support your students' literacy development at home. We will determine additional resources that you can access to help your students along their literacy journey and give you some time to define your next steps as you make a plan for support at home. Let's pause for a moment to think about our intentions for this evening's session, but also set a personal intention. Why did you come to this session? What do you hope to gain from attending this session? Please just take a moment to think about these questions or write down your thoughts on these questions. We'll be able to answer your questions at the end of the session.
We want to begin tonight thinking about the components of literacy. Literacy has made some major shifts these past few years, especially here in Virginia. We have moved our instruction from balanced approach, where we taught every component of literacy in equal amounts, to a more structured approach, where in the primary grades, we dedicate more time to building foundational skills in phonics and in writing, and then transition into more complex skills in comprehension and vocabulary into the upper grades. We want to take a moment to provide insight into all of the components of structured literacy and the skills your students will need to master as they progress through their schooling. There are three major parts to literacy: communication, reading, and writing. We begin with the foundational skills in all of these areas starting in kindergarten, and they gradually become more complex as a student progresses through each grade level. Let's Let's first look at communication. So communication takes two different forms. We have verbal communication and nonverbal. Verbal communication includes using spoken words to communicate our needs and express our ideas. And in school, we teach effective verbal communication skills by having students participate in collaborative discussions with each other, in delivering presentations to share learned information. We also teach effective nonverbal communication skills as students participate in those collaborative opportunities by having students think about their eye contact with the speaker, what their facial expressions are, and how they can use body language as they communicate. Next, let's take a moment to explore the components of reading. Since we're teaching in a structured literacy manner, not all of these skills that are displayed here are emphasized in each grade level in equal amounts. So we want to break down when they occur and what they are. So phonological awareness is a skill that supports a student's ability to hear word parts and their individual sounds in spoken language. We work on these skills beginning in kindergarten and then conclude that instruction in third grade. For students needing additional support, they may receive some practice and instruction in phonological awareness in fourth and fifth grade, but at that time, it's going to be more limited. Phonics are the skills where students work to learn the features and rules of the English language by matching spoken sounds to letters and letter patterns. We again begin this instruction starting in kindergarten and then conclude it in third grade. However, for students needing that additional support, they may receive phonics instruction in fourth grade and beyond. Next, we have vocabulary. Vocabulary is taught throughout all of the grade levels in elementary school and beyond. And we build oral vocabulary in kindergarten through doing read-alouds to our students. And then for students in first grade and beyond, we not only build vocabulary through text being read aloud, but then by their own personal experiences of reading text independently. Background knowledge is an understanding of the topics that a student or person learns through experiences. So like right now, we're building your background knowledge by discussing the components of reading. Every book that is introduced, every topic that's studied in social studies or in science, each trip that you take on your own to a different state or to visit someone, each discussion that you have at home at the dinner table or in the car on the way to school, all of those experiences that your student has help support building their background knowledge. By having a wide understanding of vocabulary and a strong background knowledge, that's going to help your students' ability to comprehend. So let's think about this for a moment. If I gave you a book on the cardiovascular system and asked you a series of questions, it might be challenging for you, as if you were like me, I don't have the vocabulary and certainly not the background knowledge to connect to what that text says. But if I gave that book to a doctor or to someone who has cardiovascular needs, they would have the background knowledge and the vocabulary to support their understanding as they read the text. So as teachers and as families, we want to work to provide students a wide range of experiences and build that wide range of vocabulary to support their understanding of many different topics. So let's dive into the third component of literacy, which is writing. We have three different components to writing. First being handwriting. So students begin their handwriting journey in kindergarten, where students work to form their printed letters correctly, both upper and then lowercase. As a student progresses through first and second grade, they continue to focus on printed letters. And then beginning halfway through second grade, students begin to explore cursive writing and then solidify their skills in third grade. Building this strong foundation in their handwriting is crucial, because if a student struggles with handwriting and putting the letters on paper, they may develop frustration as they begin to explore writing longer and more complex compositions. It's just like in reading. Students need strong phonics skills to support their development in reading of more complex text. In addition to handwriting, students begin to develop their understanding of how sentences are constructed. They begin in kindergarten learning how to write a complete sentence and then progress through second grade, where they then begin to start to write a paragraph. And then finally, in fourth and beyond, they write multiple paragraph compositions. So then that brings us to composition. When we say composition, we mean that they're written piece as a whole, so the whole written piece. If it is a narrative piece, then they're going to be writing with like a story structure with a beginning, a middle, and an end of their story. If it's expository writing, then they're writing a piece that includes facts and opinions about a specific topic that they've learned about or researched. So students have to learn to organize their thoughts to match the type of writing they're expected to complete. And that's what composes a composition piece.
So that was a brief discussion on the very complex subject of literacy, but hopefully we were able to build a little background knowledge so that you can help support your student as they go through all the phases and concepts in literacy. Now we're going to dive into how you can help your students at home. We've curated a list of all of these ideas we're going to share with you on the following slides and can definitely provide that for you. So please feel free not to feel as though you have to need to write all of these things down very quickly. And we'll take a look at all of these different activities. To build communication skills, let's begin with verbal communication. Your daily conversations with your students support them in building these skills in speaking full sentences, adding details to their discussions, and learning how to follow communication rules such as taking turns and monitoring their voice levels. Asking your students open-ended questions helps support their ability to elaborate on their thoughts. Singing songs or playing verbal games like Simon Says encourage them to build confidence. For nonverbal activities, practice using gestures and facial expressions while you speak. Playing charades or guessing games helps support students as they again build confidence and learn to express themselves using appropriate gestures and facial expressions for a variety of purposes. We're going to start our discussion about reading with some general activities to support your students at home, and then break the components of reading down so that you have some specific ideas for each part of reading. So in general, to support reading at home, we encourage you to build time to read aloud to your student. This could be you reading aloud from a book in front of you, or even listening to recorded stories. Allow your students to select books that are of high interest to them. Providing choice to students helps them build autonomy, and they'll be more inclined to be excited about what they're reading. Read a variety of different types of text from different fiction genres like fantasy, science fiction, mystery, fairy tales, etc., as well as nonfiction text about engaging topics, and in a variety of formats like magazines, comics, newspapers, etc. Show students how reading impacts your daily life. How does reading help you with your job, with paying bills, reading the news, going grocery shopping, etc.? And then we will always recommend creating a partnership with your student's teacher. They are an incredible resource of what they're doing in class and have lots of ideas on how to support your student at home. So let's take a look at the components of reading individually. First, being phonological awareness. These activities would be best for students in kindergarten through third grade, but again, as Elena stated, could be applicable for older students who still need some support in these areas. Alliteration games are where students focus on discovering words that start with the same sound or potentially end with the same sound. One game we always played in the car was the alphabet game, where the first person would start with something like, "My name is Abigail, I come from Alabama, and I like apples." Then the next person would be with the letter B. "My name is Bob. I come from Belgium and I like bagels." It's just a quick and fun way to focus on those beginning sounds. I Spy is another fun game where you can have students search for objects that start with a certain sound. Having students count syllables and sounds within a word is also a great way to help them learn to build skills in both segmenting or breaking those words down into individual parts or individual sounds, and blending those sounds back into words. We have a video that will demonstrate this coming up so that you can see it in action. Next, we have ideas to support phonics knowledge. Having students build words is a great way to encourage students to go from orally counting sounds to physically building the words themselves. We have another video that we will show that demonstrates both of these concepts. The student will count the sounds and then build the word. Word searches and word scrambles are also another great way to reinforce those phonics skills with your students. I know that my children love the word searches when we go out to restaurants. In this first video, you'll see a student use felt squares to support their practice with segmenting a word into its individual sounds. We want to remind you that students need to say the word prior to segmenting into those individual sounds. Once they have divided that word by sound, they should then blend those sounds back together into the full word.
Okay, for felt squares, the teacher will dictate the word, the student repeats the word, and then pushes or touches a felt square for each sound. Finally, the student will run their hand under the squares and say the whole word. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your first word is cat. Say the word.
Cat. Cat.
Good, pull them back. Your next word is joke. Say the word.
Joke. Joke. Joke.
Good, pull them back. And your last word is plant.
Plant. Plant.
Good job.
The next two videos are sample activities that could be used to support students' understanding of phonics. The first video features a student using Elkonin boxes to assist in connecting their phonemic awareness, their ability to hear those sounds, with the corresponding spelling or graphemes. In the next video,
In this video, we're going to be talking about Elkonin boxes. Elkonin boxes are used to help students understand phonemic awareness and segmenting words into their individual sounds. And so what we have here is we have an Elkonin boxes of 3 sounds and 4 sounds. You can make your paper have as many Elkonin boxes as necessary for the grade level that you work with. I just have some little tokens to represent sounds that we can push into the box, but you can use any type of thing that you have, beans, counters, whatever works for you. And then what they're going to do is we're going to say the word, we're going to tap out the sounds of the word, we're going to push our sounds into the sound boxes, we're going to blend the word, and then we're going to write the word. All right, so your word is bond. Bond. So let's tap it out.
Bond.
Okay, let's push our sounds. How many sounds did you hear?
4.
Okay, so where do these need to go? All right, let's push them for each sound.
Bond.
Bond. Good. Now let's write it. Let's check that. What do you think? There we go. What sounds next? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's...
Bond.
Bond. Good.
In this next video, the student is simply using magnetic letters to build words. Remember, with both activities, students should segment the sounds, and then when they spell the word, make sure they're blending those sounds back together into the word.
All right, in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating the use of magnetic letters. I have them simply on a cookie sheet, which is a great tool to use when you're having students build words, because you can hold up the sheet so that they can see. Well, I know my M is dropping, but so that they can see what you have built, or they can show you what they have built. And so we're going to demonstrate that. So we have the word jump. Let's tap out the sounds in jump. Go for it.
Jump.
Okay, can you build the word and sound it out as you are building it?
Jump.
Good.
Here are some ideas to support other areas in reading. When it comes to vocabulary knowledge, this is just when we are exploring words. So find new words in books and incorporate them when you and your students speak. Look up words in dictionaries or glossaries together. You could do a new word of the day or play games like Scrabble or crossword puzzles to discover new and interesting words. Next, we have background knowledge. Anytime you read a new book, you build an experience with your student that in turn provides them with an opportunity to build their background knowledge. When you watch educational programs like Shark Week or a documentary on a new country, those are also opportunities for students to learn more information about a wide variety of topics. Additionally, all of the experience you have as a family, like going on a walk or going fishing, driving to see friends or family, or visiting a zoo or museum, also provide students with experiences that support their background knowledge. When it comes to comprehension, this is where students put all of that knowledge together to understand a book that they are reading. Asking questions while reading texts, discussing what's happening in the story, or writing down a list of all the new facts that they learned after reading are all great ways to help a student understand what they have learned from their reading. In this video, you will see a student participating in a discussion about a text that they just read, helping to support their comprehension.
Okay, so we just finished reading this book, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Can you tell me a summary of the story? Just tell me about what the story is about.
Well, it's basically about Wolf's side of the story, and the wolf trying to get a cup of sugar for his grandma, but accidentally knocking the houses down because he had like this big cold and he was sneezing, and then he found the pigs dead, and then he ate them because of his wolf appetite. It's not really his fault, and then he went to the third house, and then he made a big scene, and then after that he got sent to jail, and then the news made it this big thing, and he was framed. And now he's an old grandpa in jail.
What was your favorite part of the story?
Maybe I think it's when he ate the first pig, because I do not remember any eating of pigs. I remember the two other pigs going in the brick house. Apparently not in this story.
Okay. If you were going to change any part of the story, what part would you change?
I think that's pretty hard. But if I had to change anything, sadly, I'd go with my favorite part of the story, and like change it to where they just go inside the brick house, cause I think eating them seems a bit gory, but yeah.
Okay. Would you recommend this book to your friends to read?
Yeah.
Why?
It seems like pretty fun, and it's about his side of the story, and I don't think I've ever heard any other book with like the wolf's side of the story.
Okay, great.
The last but certainly not easiest piece of literacy is writing. Writing is one of the hardest things we ask our students to do each day. There are so many skills involved when we ask students to write. So we wanted to provide you with some ideas to support them in their writing at home. The first skill when we look at writing is handwriting. Working with your student to have a good pencil grip, proper letter formation, etc., is going to support them as they work on writing skills at school. When a student is successful with their handwriting skills, they are better able to focus on their composition skills, like developing sentences and longer pieces of writing. Additionally, supporting students with grammar is very important. Having students speak in complete sentences supports their oral language, which in turn will help support their ability to write complete and effective sentences. Games like Mad Libs and filling in the rest of a sentence help students to think about what works best to make the sentence make sense. Reviewing how authors use grammar in the books that you're reading is another great way to weave that grammar component into your discussions with your student. Finally, we come to composition. Writing should be enjoyable, and students should find it enjoyable. When they feel success and it's of high interest to them, that's going to increase that enjoyment factor for them. So keep a family journal, write letters to each other or to other family members or friends, write stories to share with each other. One thing that my kids love is when we write stories together. This can be a fun way that allows them to be creative. One of us will write the first sentence of a story, and then each member of the family writes a new sentence until we complete the story. Another way to support composition would be to create a family scrapbook of experiences that you share. This allows the student to reflect on those experiences. There are a lot of ways to encourage and support your students as they build their writing abilities.
So this evening, we went over a number of different ideas and ways that you can support your student at home with literacy, but we also have more. Virginia Literacy Partnerships is a department out of the University of Virginia. The VLP does a lot of work within the state in literacy, and in fact, provides us with our current literacy screener that we use within our schools. What they've curated is a wonderful resource for families as well. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone, but we will also provide the link in a follow-up email. Let's take a look at the website together. We put together additional ideas from their page that may support you. The first one is a bookmark with some ideas and is both in English and Spanish. They provide a flyer in both English and Spanish with ideas of how to strengthen student literacy skills at home. These will be provided in our follow-up email. And we always want to remind you that your student's school is one of the most important and best places to go for ideas on how to support literacy at home. Your student's teacher, the school administration, the school library,
the school librarian, and most importantly, your student can help you determine what skills your child or your student may need to work on and what resources might be available. And last but not least, the Chesapeake Public Library is a great supporter of our students and our schools. Each Chesapeake Public School student has access to check out books from any Chesapeake Public Library
using their school student ID number. The school librarian can assist you in accessing that information. And when you get to the Chesapeake Public Library, the librarian can assist you there as well. The Chesapeake Public Library has tons of fun events, story times, online resources, and even items that can be checked out for your enjoyment. As a mother of a child in Chesapeake Public Schools, my daughter has been involved in some of the activities that they've offered there, and we've taken advantage too of some of the passes that they provide. So they have passes to the zoo, to the botanical gardens, to the aquarium. So the Chesapeake Public Library is a great supporter of you and your student. And just in conclusion, we just want to thank you for your time and for your dedication to supporting your student with their literacy journey at home. We appreciate your commitment to their literacy success, and we want to continue to stay connected with you. So stay on for questions, but we also wish you a fabulous evening if you do have to go, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, panelists, for your wealth of information. Should you have any questions about tonight's webinar or need additional information and/or resources, please contact us at face@cpschools.com. This concludes our Supporting Literacy at Home webinar. Again, I would like to thank all of our panelists for sharing information with us this evening. Please remember that this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to Chesapeake Public Schools' YouTube page within the next several days. Thank you for joining us this evening, and remember, families and communities work better together.